Assalamualaikum everyone, welcome to the third part of the video, internal structure of the heart. I hope you have watched the previous two videos. In previous two videos we discussed about all these organs which are present in the heart, the internal structure of the heart, that what are all these things: arteries, auricles, ventricles, septum, all the four valves: tricuspid, mitral or bicuspid, semilunar valves. We also discussed about the main blood vessels that are situated near the heart: Iota, CVC is superior vena cava, IVC is inferior vena cava, pulmonary arteries, pulmonary veins. We discussed about all these things in detail. Now, as I told you that in the upcoming video we'll discuss about blood circulation in human body. How does the heart work? So let's discuss it today. Without any delay, let's begin with the video. So, blood is circulated in the human body by regular contraction and relaxation of the heart. This right atrium receives deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body through the superior and the inferior vena cava. I told you that superior vena cava transports the deoxygenated blood from the upper parts of the body, that is from the head and the shoulders. And the inferior vena cava, on the other hand, transports the blood from the lower parts of the body, that is from the trunk and the legs, deoxygenated blood to the right atrium. Now, the right atrium receives deoxygenated blood from the different parts of the body through the superior and the inferior vena cava. The right atrium contracts. It basically contracts, I hope you know the meaning of contraction. It contracts. The deoxygenated blood is pumped into the right ventricle. I'll let you know, suppose if there is a balloon with you, you just you squeeze it, the water will flow out of the balloon, right? So in the similar way, just consider this as a balloon. This right atrium is filled up with deoxygenated blood, so it contracts, and there's pressure is applied from here. Pressure is applied and it contracts, and the blood is transported into the right ventricles. Now what happens is, when these ventricles, the right ventricles, get completely filled with blood, the tricuspid valve and the bicuspid valve, or the AV valves, they close with a sound lub. I hope you have heard that our heart relaxes and contracts with a lubbed up sound. So here is the lub sound created when the tricuspid, when this ventricle is completely filled up with blood. So these tricuspid and bicuspid valve close with a lub sound. At the same time, these semilunar valves open. All right. Now the right ventricle contracts. Now, like this contracted in the similar way, now this will contract because now this is filled up with blood. So now the right ventricle contracts. Due to this, the deoxygenated blood is pumped into the pulmonary artery. It is pumped into the pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery transports the deoxygenated blood to the lungs. Exactly. It transports the deoxygenated blood to the lungs. Now what happens is, the pulmonary in the lungs, when after a pulmonary artery transports the blood to the lungs, in the lungs, oxygen, because I told you in the previous video also that our lungs are a part of respiratory system. So, and what is the function of respiratory system? It is inhalation and exhalation of the air. Exactly. Am I right? Yes. So in the lungs, when the blood enters the lungs, so oxygen enters it. In the lungs, oxygen enters the blood and blood becomes oxygenated. The deoxygenated blood becomes oxygenated. All right. Now what happens is, the left atrium, this one, the left atrium receives oxygenated blood from the lungs through the pulmonary veins. These pulmonary veins, they receive the oxygenated blood through the pulmonary veins from the lungs. When the blood is now purified in the lungs, when the blood is oxygenated finally, then it enters the left atrium through the pulmonary veins. Now, the left atrium also contracts like the right atrium contracted, and it passed the blood into the right ventricle. In the similar way, when this left atrium gets filled up with blood, it also contracts and transports the blood into the oxygenated blood is pumped into the left ventricle. Exactly. Now, the left ventricle also contracts. Now the left ventricle is also filled up with blood. Now, this also contracts. With the contraction of the left ventricle, the oxygenated blood is pumped into the aorta. When this contracts, the oxygenated blood is pumped into the aorta. Now, this aorta transports the oxygenated blood to all the different parts of the body. And this blood which is flowing in the heart, if we just put our hand near our chest, we can see continuous lub dub sound. So we can imagine that how fast this process goes on. Blood moves with high pressure because it has to reach all the different parts of the body. Alright? So when the chambers of the now I'll tell you some additional points. When the chambers of the heart relax, they get filled up with blood. When the chambers of the heart contract, the blood is pushed out of them. You know that when the chambers of the heart relax, they get filled up with blood. Blood is filled inside them. And when the chambers of the heart contract, they contract, so blood is pushed out of them. It's pushed out of them. Alright? So remember this. So and one more point is that both the left and the right atria, the left and the right atria contract and relax together. Similarly, both the left and the right ventricle, they also relax and contract together. The contraction of atria is followed by the contraction of ventricles and vice versa. So contraction and relaxation occur in a rhythmic manner. Let me repeat. It might seem a bit confusing that how it's occurring vice versa. How can the contraction and relaxation of all these things occur at the same time? So it will become really very easy for you to understand if I repeat the process in a proper way. I'll repeat the process, whatever I told you. Listen to the concept very carefully. See, we know that blood is circulated in the entire body by regular contraction and relaxation of the heart. Now, the right atrium receives the blood from different parts of the body through the superior and the inferior vena cava. Simultaneously means at the same time, the left atrium receives oxygenated blood from the lungs through the pulmonary veins. The right atrium contracts, the deoxygenated blood is pumped into the right ventricles. Simultaneously means at the same time, the left atrium contracts and the oxygenated blood is pumped into the left ventricle. When the ventricle get completely filled up with blood, the tricuspid and the bicuspid, when both of these ventricles, not only this one, both of these ventricles, when both of them get filled up with blood, then the tricuspid and the bicuspid valve close with a glub sound. Alright? When the ventricles get completely filled up with blood, the tricuspid and the bicuspid valve close with a sound. At the same time, the semilunar valves open. Now the right ventricle contracts. Due to this, the deoxygenated blood is pumped into the pulmonary artery. It is pumped into the pulmonary artery. And the pulmonary artery now transports the deoxygenated blood to the lungs. Exactly. In the lungs, oxygen enters the blood and it makes the blood oxygenated. Simultaneously, the left ventricle contracts. With the contraction of the left ventricle, the oxygenated blood is pumped into the aorta. The aorta transports the oxygenated blood to all the parts of the body, and that's how continuous pumping of the blood goes on in our heart. So this is how the process goes on. Whatever information I gave you till now, you can refer to this diagram in order to understand the concept very, very nicely. You can take screenshot if you want. You can see in this diagram everything is this is a schematic diagram of blood circulation in human body. These are the lungs, this is the heart, and these are the capillaries in the body organs. This is how oxygenated blood travels and how the deoxygenated blood travels. There is something really interesting for you. I'll let you know. Just consider this as the heart, this as the body organs, this as the heart, and this as the lungs. An additional point: deoxygenated blood from all the parts of the body enters the heart. Then the deoxygenated blood from the heart after pumping enters the lungs. Then from the lungs after purification, the oxygenated blood enters the heart, and then from the heart the oxygenated blood enters the body again. You can remember the concepts by this method. It will be really very easy for you to understand the concepts. See, if you visualize the things in your mind, you learn the things with by making a diagram, by presenting them like with diagrams. So it becomes very, very easy for you to understand the concepts. Like in this way, you can refer to this diagram. Like in this diagram, you can see everything really very nicely, that how the process goes on. So you can refer to this diagram and understand the concepts. So that's it for today. I hope I cleared all your queries, and I also answered all the questions which might come in your mind. I told you about blood circulation in human body and how does the heart work. So we'll meet in the next video really very soon, inshallah, and we'll discuss more concepts like this one. Subscribe for more videos. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Allah Hafiz. See you in the next video.